So with Vasyl Lomachenko's fight against George Kambosos being confirmed, and seeing how the fans have reacted to this fight, which hasn't even been too bad, but I have seen some negative reactions, and overall it has really just reminded me of something that I felt for a little bit regarding Vasyl Lomachenko and that I really want to make a video about addressing. So straight up, to put it simply, I feel Vasyl Lomachenko is probably the most overhated and overly criticized fighters in modern boxing history. Vasyl Lomachenko is easily, without a doubt, a fighter who has received a lot of hate, a lot of discredit, and a lot of backlash over aspects of his career that I feel most fighters would have either gotten away with or maybe even have been praised for doing. Now let's break down Loma's career. He took on a champion in his second pro fight. Let's start off from there, the Orlando Salido fight. There's multiple things I need to bring up regarding this fight. First of all, Vasyl Lomachenko is getting a lot of hate for being able to get a title shot so early. Oh man, Vasyl Lomachenko, he's spoiled, he's getting a title fight in his second fight, etc. Let's be objective here. If a different fighter got a title fight in his second fight, instead of hating on the fighter and saying that he didn't deserve a title fight, they would be praising him for his ambition, for his courage, and for him really attempting to make history and really attempting to do something great with his career. I actually find it shocking that a man gets hate for taking on the best fighter or one of the best fighters he can in his second pro fight. You would expect him to be praised and receive a lot of credit from other fans. Oh man, look at Vasyl Lomachenko taking on a champion in only his second fight. He's taking on a champion, attempting to become a champion in 2 fights. But instead he got a lot of hate for it and received a lot of criticism and was called spoiled by many fans. Next thing regarding the Salido fight is obviously the outcome and the way the fight played out. Let's ignore the decision first of all and just talk about the fight. He got hit by so many low blows, and the thing is, people love to bring up the Salido loss, but no one wants to talk about the element of Salido coming in way overweight and hitting Loma with probably over 100 flush low blows in the fight. Barely anyone brings it up. They bring up how he lost the fight. They bring up how he lost to Orlando Salido. Mikey Garcia dominated the same Orlando Salido that beat Vasyl Lomachenko. You guys are completely ignoring the context of the fight and ignoring what happened in the fight. Orlando Salido fought extremely dirty. It was one of the most disgusting things I've seen, and Lawrence Cole should have never gotten a job after that performance. And even with all of that being said, Vasyl Lomachenko still probably deserved the win that night. It was a 7-5 either way type of fight, and honestly, it probably should have gone Loma's favor. But it went Salido's favor, which I don't even think the decision is necessarily the issue. It has more to do with the low blows. But I felt Loma deserved that win in general. The whole Gary Russell fight. His first fight after the Salido fight, he's 1-1. He takes on Gary Russell. Yes, it's a slightly green Gary Russell, but still a really good fighter. We saw what he did to Johnny Gonzalez, demolished him, looked tremendous. He takes on a green but still really good Gary Russell when he's 1-1, gets the job done, gets the victory. Everyone's complaining about the knockdown that Gary Russell should have gotten against Loma. First of all, it's clearly a slip. Second of all, Loma won like 9 or 10 of those 12 rounds in general. And third of all, even if the judges being against Loma and nearly robbing him, he still would have won if the knockdown was called. So who cares about that bullcrap knockdown? That knockdown meant absolutely nothing at all. He dominated a really good fighter in Gary Russell. And I honestly think the Gary Russell that lost to Mark Magsayo was nowhere near the level of the Gary Russell that Loma fought. And Loma was able to beat him handily. Anyways, back to the point. He took on Nicholas Walters. A lot of people were either picking Walters to win or giving him a very good chance. Nicholas Walters was considered one of the boogeymen. And a lot of people claim that he dragged Walters up in weight. That's actually not true. That was his second fight at 130. He fought Jason Sosa prior and got viciously robbed. He dominated that fight. That was a terrible, terrible decision from HBO. So Loma takes on Nicholas Walters. He schools him. He makes him quit. And after Loma makes Walters quit, everyone comes up with any excuse they can find. They give so many different excuses: weight drained, inactivity, he was never that good anyways. All these excuses came completely out of nowhere. I mean, so many people were picking Walters. I was picking Walters the entire build up until like the last minute, right before the fight. During the ring walks, I said, you know what, Loma's going to take this guy. I don't even think it was my gut. I feel Lomachenko was a better fighter than Nicholas Walters. At a certain point, I said to myself, Walters is a good fighter. He's a good name. He is proven to be a boogeyman type of fighter. He's hits very hard. He's a very good fighter overall, but Loma's going to get the job done. I ended up being right, but I didn't think it'd be an easy fight. He completely dominated him, made him quit. It was a tremendous performance. After that, Loma took on Jason Sosa. That was a bit of a gimme fight. I don't take that one too seriously. And Miguel Mariaga, another gimme fight. Now, here's where the double standards really start to take into effect. Here's where we really started to see the hatred that many people had towards Vasyl Lomachenko, which came virtually out of nowhere. For years, we were all hearing that Guillermo Rigondeaux would break Vasyl Lomachenko's jaw, that he would beat Loma, that Loma was ducking Rigo, that Rigo was actually the most technically sound fighter in the sport. So what Loma does is he makes the fight for Rigo that everyone wanted to see, or a bunch of people wanted to see for years. The fight gets made. He brings Rigo up in weight, which I know technically it's not ideal bringing up in weight, but look at it this way. He's more hydrated against Loma. What do you want, Loma to drain himself and go down multiple weight classes? Let Rigo be hydrated. Big effing deal. It really doesn't matter that much. he brings Rigo up in weight. Absolutely cooks him. Doesn't even use his size to advantage. Doesn't bully Rigo. Doesn't fight dirty. Doesn't fight cheap. Doesn't use physicality. Just outclasses him. Shows how much more fundamentally sound he is. Shows how much quicker he is. How much better his footwork is. How much better his punch placement is. And he makes Rigo quit in the 6th round for fake injury. The excuses that came after his Rigo win were ridiculous. He was old. He was out of his prime. He dragged him up multiple weight classes. Everyone talks about the size difference of Loma and Rigo, yet everyone was begging for them to fight. They finally fight, and now the excuses come. No, everyone knew deep down, and everyone knows deep down how great of a fighter Prime Loma is. They just don't want to admit how great of a fighter he is, so subconsciously they'll come up with these excuses such as size or such as age, because they know deep down Loma's just that much better than Guillermo Rigondeaux. After that, he fought Jorge Linares. No one really brings that up, but they do bring up how he got dropped non-stop. Okay, Vasyl Lomachenko got dropped by a world champion while moving up in weight in his first fight at 135 against an established high-level fighter who's had multiple title defenses, has been a champion many times, against a seasoned veteran but also a very talented fighter. He gets dropped by Linares, big deal. Everyone made such a massive deal over this knockdown. It was getting posted everywhere. It was getting talked about everywhere that he got dropped by Jorge Linares. Does it really matter that much? He got up and won the fight and stopped him. Yes, I understand. It was a very key moment of the fight. It was very important. It definitely deserved to be brought up many times. But people were using this against him so much. They wouldn't stop bringing it up for quite a couple years. I mean, as of late, they haven't been bringing it up because so much time has passed. But when Loma was on his tear, that just kept getting brought up. And it's actually ridiculous because he got a flash knockdown, got up, recovered, and dominated and stopped Linares and looked very impressive and became a champion in his third weight. So he gets a lot of flack for getting dropped by Linares, but I really don't think it matters in the grand scheme of things as he got the job done. Now, here's one that I noticed very recently, and at the time I didn't really pick up on it, but now I've really picked up on it. There's a lot of hypocrites regarding the entire man of Jose Pedraza. Now, when it comes to Gervonta Tank Davis, Jose Pedraza is a phenomenal fighter. He's a world champion. He's a seasoned vet. He's a very crafty, fundamentally sound fighter from Puerto Rico, the island. He's just overall a really good fighter overall. And he wasn't weight drained at all against Tank, supposedly. Yet against Vasyl Lomachenko, where he's moving up in weight, he's more hydrated than he was against Tank. And he holds a belt just like he held a belt against Tank Davis. Loma gets zero credit for beating Pedraza. He actually receives hate for not looking as good as Tank Davis, which is ridiculous because I believe Tank got hit by more punches in 7 rounds than Loma did in 12 rounds. So, yeah, he didn't get the stoppage, but it was just as dominant, for being honest. So Tank gets so much credit for the Pedraza when he still does. Years later, he took out Pedraza nearly 8 years ago, and he still gets credit for that win. But Loma gets no credit for beating Pedraza after Tank did so. Yes, I guess technically it was a Tank leftover, but he was moving up in weight, he was hydrated, and he was coming off a career win against Raimundo Beltran, as well as being a world champion. Loma unified against Pedraza, dominated him, and received no credit. Yet Tank Davis received tons of credit for being a more weight-drained version of that man. After that, he knocked out Anthony Crolla. Doesn't really mean that much. Then he took on Luke Campbell. Luke Campbell's a decent win. It was a very relatively tough fight for Loma, actually. And he doesn't receive too much hate for the Luke Campbell fight. A lot of people just say he had more trouble than he should have, but no one really hates on him for that. He loses to Teofimo Lopez. He deserves a lot of criticism for that. He should not have taken the fight. And even then, he lost to the better man. I understand that. Nakatani, Kome, Ortiz, and then Devin Haney. I felt he beat Devin Haney. I think most fighters Most fighters would have received much more credit than Loma did for his Haney performance. Devin Haney's a pound-for-pound level fighter. Loma arguably beats him in my mind and most people's minds, and gets virtually no credit for it. Some people claim he got robbed, but no one really made much of a deal out of it. And I feel if it was anyone else, the fans would have been demanding a rematch. I know Haney moved up in weight, but the fans would have demanded a rematch. They would have said Loma deserves a rematch. It would have been pushed. It would have been protested by the fans. Very few people tried pushing for that rematch to happen. Very few people asked Haney to rematch Loma, and that's why Haney was able to get away with moving up and not having the rematch, because no one was really asking for it, which I feel is a shame, because Loma deserved that opportunity to avenge that fight, even if he would have lost, because I'm not sure he would have beaten Haney in the rematch, but it would have been nice if they at least made it. Even if it was at a catchweight of 137.5, it would have been nice to see them rematch. So the new double standard going on of Vasyl Lomachenko, and the new way that Loma is receiving unfair criticism, is that he has taken on George Kambosos Jr., which isn't a great fight. It's a decent fight. Kambosos is an okay name, right? He's going to Australia to fight George Kambosos Jr., a man that is considered one of Devin Haney's best wins, and is always brought up as a very good win for Devin. Oh, he beat the man who beat Teofimo Lopez. He beat the man coming off the Teofimo win. He was undisputed, or no, he was unified before fighting Devin. I understand he's not unified while fighting Loma, and I understand Haney's beaten him twice now, so it's not like it's a fresh, undefeated fighter. But if it's considered one of Devin's best wins off of name, not just off of what he's accomplished, but off of ability, why isn't it considered a good win for Vasyl Lomachenko? Why doesn't Loma receive any credit for taking on George Kambosos in his backyard, just like Devin did? I mean, people give Devin Haney credit for winning the second Kambosos fight. They don't just give him credit for the first fight and ignore the second fight. They never say, oh, he beat George again, whatever. No, they say he beat George Kambosos twice. They give him credit for 2 George wins. They give him credit for the second win as well. So why can't Loma get credit for a George Kambosos win? It doesn't make much sense to me. It's obvious that there's just bias against Vasyl Lomachenko, who's done very little wrong in the sport of boxing. He's taken on so many top challengers. If you look at actually the names he's fought, almost every fighter that people wanted to see him fight, he took on. He took on Jorge Linares. He took on Rigo, which everyone wanted to see. He took on Nicholas Walters, which everyone wanted to see. He took on Teofimo Lopez. He took on Devin Haney. The only couple fighters he hasn't fought yet are Shakur, which I believe he will fight after George, and Tank, which was not Loma's fault, and anyone with a brain knows that Loma was not the one at fault for the Tank fight not happening. So Loma deserves some credit for this George win. He deserves more credit for his career. He's still a Hall of Fame fighter, in my opinion. A really great fighter in his prime, especially. I hope he has one last run. Honestly, it's a shame that he received so much hate, because I think he's probably the most overhated fighter in modern boxing history. Him, Triple G, Terrence Crawford for a while. Crawford's not in that tier anymore after the Spence win, but prior to the Spence win, he was so overhated. Even after the Spence win, he's overhated, but it's not as bad. He's finally receiving his flowers. So Triple G, Loma, Crawford to an extent. I mean, obviously guys like Floyd and Manny were hated, but that's just because they were such ultra superstars. They're obviously going to receive hate. But someone like Loma, I think he gets the most unnecessary hate out of all of them, because he's done very little wrong. Tell me down in the comment section below, what do you think about Loma's career? What do you want to see from him next? Do you think I was overly fair to Loma? Do you think I wasn't fair enough to Loma? Let me know all that stuff down below. Have a good one, guys. God bless. I'll see you guys later. Peace.